Yeah, hello everybody. Sun is shining here, the last ray of sun, so I hate to miss that, so I'll keep it on. Lovely evening here, morning for other people maybe. We're with a small group today in the governance meeting, but still some people joining, which is a good thing. A small but increasing group of people. Maybe some of you are on holiday. There were also a little bit issues with the invite, so maybe not everybody got it on time, but it's quality over quantity, I say. So thank you for joining. We have a number of topics. Let me first start with a remark on the focus group. So in the town hall last week, we presented the initiative, we talked about it before, of creating a governance focus group. And the benefits would be that with a smaller group of people, but consistent group of people, it would be easier to go a little bit more in depth in certain topics. So we are having a kind of selection procedure. I wrote a blog on our website and there's a link, and we send a newsletter. Maybe somebody could post a link here also in the meeting chat. So if you're interested, you can still apply for that role. It is a modestly paid role. So it's a level up from where we are here, because right now we're all volunteers. So at least it will be modestly paid in the next round, and maybe we'll continue upwards from there on. Who's to say? This is a first experiment. That's also why we are electing people at this stage. Going forward, that will be more sophisticated. We will have some kind of rotation. Maybe there will be links to collaboration, contribution systems, and there might be some kind of election involved at some point. And while we're increasing that process, maybe we'll also be increasing the authority of that group. But this is just the first step on hopefully a long and interesting journey. So if you want to join us on that first step, then please fill out the form. We already have a large number. The last time I looked today, we had 26 applicants. We are aiming for 5 people. So unfortunately, or fortunately, in a sense, we have to disappoint some people. What we try to do when we select people is to go for diversity in a number of ways. We try to go for diversity in country or culture. We try to, so we asked in the form what each member would prefer to do, which kind of tasks and not. So we'll try to have a nice distribution there as well. Another thought is that what I really value in meetings like this, that there are also a lot of people who have close ties with Cardano Catalyst, which is of course very useful, and we would like to have that knowledge and experience here and also in the focus group. On the other hand, it might not be the best thing to have 5 people that are very close to Catalyst. Maybe it would also be good to have a few people that are more native SingularityNet community members. So that's another way we will look at it. I already dread the moment that I have to disappoint a number of you, which will happen. But if it happens to you, then be sure that this is not the last chance. We will rotate it at some point in some way. So there will be other opportunities. So yeah, this is the last call, I would say. This Sunday, not sure when this video will be posted, by the way. I hope it will be in time. But this Sunday, that's the 23rd of July, will be the last day to submit your application. That also means that when we have elected a focus group, the nature of this call might also change a little bit. And I don't know exactly in what way. So that's the exciting part. But of course, there will be a focus group mediating between the larger community and the internal staff. So my expectation there is, well, it would be very hard for me not to see all of you again. And I'm not just talking to the people here in the call, but also that are regular participants, but not here today. But I expect that the frequency will be a little bit lower. But maybe the focus group will then pick up and do the intermediate things to discuss things with you and then feed it back to us. I think that's sort of the way I hope and expect things will go, but in exactly what frequencies and what ways and what tools we will use. This is a Zoom call, obviously. There are other ways of collecting feedback and to be engaged. But I hope to have a lot of new insights and interesting discussions on that. So this will change a little bit at least. Also, the next session would be during my holiday. So I think we can all have a holiday then, maybe. And then afterwards, we'll pick it up with the focus group. Any question on that topic so far before I move on to the next one? No questions. I was completely clear and transparent. Happy to hear that. I find it really hard to read in the chat and talk at the same time. So if you typing stuff, I will read it afterwards when I'm not talking anymore. So if it's urgent or if you want to say something, please just speak up. We're a small group today, just so you can just start talking. If not, I'll introduce two other topics I would like to talk a little bit about with you people. The first is about a new pool that we're introducing, and there's an interesting backstory there as well. I introduced it last week in the town hall, but for those that didn't see that, I'll introduce it shortly again. And then after that, Raphael will tell you a little bit more about another way of community engagement that we're really active on at this moment, and that I'm really happy to see, which is more involvement of the community in all kinds of tasks that need to be done. So that was the first topic. Chris, you just missed the first topic. It was about a focus group, but there's a nice article on our website where you can hear everything about it. The next topic would be about a new type of pool in the funding round. And there's a little bit of context about it. So we have a pool for tooling, and that was quite successful last time. So we have pools for services, for solutions, for marketing projects, but also for tooling that helps. So there are different ways to help the platform grow. You can do it with services and solutions. You can do it with marketing initiatives, but you can also do it very directly by adding tooling to the platform to make the usage easier. So we had a number of applicants last time. One of them that I actually initiated was the contribution score tool, but it is completely handled by an independent team. I'm only an advisor in that team, but I'll tell you a little bit, I'll circle back on that a little bit later, because it has relevance to this new pool that we're creating. We see that there might be, especially in the coming 3, 6 to 18 months, a need and an opportunity from internal technical teams to involve community or wider teams to help us build stuff. We have plans to build more stuff on our platform, and we would like to give the community also an opportunity to participate in that. We would love to have more development engagement from the community in our core tooling. So first, a little bit of the immediate context to that. So that's not the only reason we're doing, but it does give a nice context about it. At this moment, as we are speaking, and this started like something like 2-3 weeks ago. We started a renewed discussion internally on all the things we can do on the platform. And we do have those discussions from time to time, and sometimes it leads to ideas, sometimes it drops off again because there are other urgent things. But this time in particular, it's really booming and we have a lot of ideas and we are very serious about it. So it's not a done deal yet, we're still thinking. So I also don't want to tell you too much about the direction, because I would like to make sure that it is presented in the right way to everybody. But it does mean there's a lot of work to be done on the platform in the coming time frame of 3, 6, 12, 18 months, different types of things that we would like to build on the platform. One of the things that we will be doing, but it's actually a little bit separate from that main topic, is just the plain core functionality like onboarding that really needs to be done. We need to improve it. We're on that, and we'll give that another hard push as well in this thing. And not just onboarding, there might also be some other core functionalities that we will work on hard. Now, because this is currently such a big topic internally, I offered at some point internally, I said, well, we could also make use of deep funding in these topics. And then I mentioned, well, if you want to make use of the next round, you have to be really quick because we're planning it for this week. And of course, that's a little bit too quick, but we landed on a compromise where we said, well, or where I said basically, I think a delay of, let's say, 2 weeks or something of starting the new round would be acceptable, if that means we can start this new pool and get a lot of interesting tooling ideas, because that's what it is basically in. And then we can already use this pool to also as an experiment to try out this new format, and I hope it works and we can continue that later. So that's the context. Sorry, it's a little bit mysterious. I can't tell too many details, but I hope that will be out in a matter of 1 or 2 weeks or something. Probably 2 weeks, you know how these things are going. Maybe even 3, I don't know. Back to the pool as is. So what we would like to do, so we will keep the current tooling pool. We will keep the current tooling pool for anybody who has a good idea, a great idea that we didn't think of ourselves, or maybe isn't too high on our priority list or whatever. You can apply and you can get funded for that. Apart from that, we want to have another pool. I would call it, well, we have to think of a proper name. But maybe the Singularity Net RFP or tooling RFP pool or something, where RFP is an abbreviation for request for proposal. So we would actually do a request for proposal, but we will make it quite articulate. We will give you some specifications for the type of thing that we would like to have done. Probably will also give some ideas about the complexity of the work and perhaps the capabilities of the team that would successfully try to do that. We will also add, at least that is the current thinking, we will also add a maximum amount for each proposal. So that means that the pool as such won't have a maximum, but each proposal will have a maximum. And there might be different kinds of proposals. There might be proposals that of which we can use multiple versions. So in that case, we will say the maximum for this RFP proposal would be, I don't know, 50K. And the maximum number that will be awarded will be 3. Or in other instances, it might only be 1. And then if there are multiple proposals that get awarded and get beyond the threshold, then the highest scoring one would be used. So if I put it pull it out into separate steps, what will happen? Ideally, before the next round starts, although this first, it might be tight, so we'll have to see, but ideally before the first, the next round starts, we would publish a number, could be 1, 2, 5, I don't know, requests for proposals. Then teams would be able to create their proposal as you're usually doing, with milestones and an amount, etc., and a team, just a regular proposal. Then instead of a peer review, we will have our tech team do a review, the same that created the RFP, saying, well, these are the proposals that we have confidence in, so a kind of recommendation, but it's just a recommendation. And then ultimately, it's still also, as usual, the community that will decide if this will be awarded or not. So if you don't like what we're doing, you can just give us a bad score and then it won't happen. So that's the way the community is still completely in charge of the treasury. I can make this a little bit more concrete with the contribution score tool, but maybe this is a good moment to ask you if you already have any questions on this.
Hi, Jan. I was just wondering when so the request for a proposal idea, because obviously I've not been involved in this for very long at all, you know, a couple of weeks. How long has this been in the mindset of you guys and the builders at the moment?
Well, mindset is a very wide term, right? I probably started thinking about it half a year ago, but it really became more concrete. You know, I struggled with the last round, with round 2. Let's start with that. So we had a fixed pool, and I could think of more topics to be awarded than the size of the pool. But I also didn't want to just increase the pool size, because no idea what other topics, what other 2 proposals would get in there. So I think at that time the thinking started about it. But to make this concrete and to do this in this round and the actual rules and conditions around it, it's more a question of weeks rather than months.
Yeah, because I actually put a comment in earlier this week in the Deep Funding channel on Discord with this exact idea about having, obviously, accepting proposals, but I think as well, with if the community or the builders have something that they would like built, then requesting that. So, you know, yeah, so basically we're on the same mindset. It's great.
Yeah, oh, great. Yeah, I was expecting that you were going to say, well, if you only thought of this 2 weeks ago, you can't do it now. You have to think about it for 3 months first before doing it. That's what I was expecting. So I was a little bit careful here. But there are different things here. So another thing that has been actually on my mind from before the beginning of Deep Funding, for a long time ago, is this ideation thing. So now we are putting forward requests for proposals, but there's also an opportunity for regular people that don't have maybe AI knowledge, don't have a team, whatever, to put forward ideas. And then there's the question, if it's a really good idea and a team would adopt it, then you also would like to have them awarded or rewarded in some way. So that is another topic that is also will find its way at some point to the Deep Funding thing, but that's not what we're engaging in here now. But what was already there in the previous round, that if you are a development team or one person, one man band, whatever, and you don't only have a good idea for a tool, but you can also somehow get it realized. We already had that in the previous round. And another thing that we had, and we still have actually, is on our regular website, we have a forum, request for AI. It's probably a little bit hidden somewhere, where anybody who has an idea can just request it. And we made that a hidden forum because we figured at that time there might be B2B organizations or whatever that didn't want their ideas completely in the open. My intention is to remove that form, to have it as part of deep funding, but also have it out in the open. And then maybe we can think about some kind of reward scheme for things that get rewarded. That's also always a little bit tricky to make that foolproof, but that we will get there. Maybe
I think it'll also help when you make it more open like that, is that you're not going to get spammed by people or organizations with the same idea. You know, if they can see that this idea is already under consideration or it's already being funded, then it'll stop them, I suppose, you know, making those proposals when those proposals have already been made.
Yes, and to be honest, the quality of these proposals that are coming in is quite varied. Like that, varied, yeah. So therefore, it would also be good to have it out in the open and have community members talk about it, vote it up, down, whatever. Yeah, maybe thinking about that right now would be interesting to have one of these new ideas awarded, for instance, every month, regardless whether it's being built or not, just to stimulate the thinking in the community. So yeah, there are many ideas and many possibilities. That's what I love about this program. Any other questions so far? Otherwise, I'll just continue with making it a little bit more specific with the example of the contribution tool. Then I'll continue, and you can still ask questions afterwards. So another thing related to this was we started this contribution tool, and the way it started was actually a little bit similar to what we're doing here, but in a less formal way. So I also had the idea, we need a contribution tool, and I still think we need it. And so I'm very glad it's being built. It will be, if successful, it will be a very important tool for deep funding and our whole community. I won't go into the detail of the tool itself right now. But as we made a rule that as SingularityNet, we would not create proposals ourselves. We don't want our internal people to compete with the community over a fixed amount of funding. That would not be the right thing. We already are funded. So that put me in a little bit of a hard spot. I knew that internally we were completely filled up. There was no time, there were no resources available to have this done. But with my deep funding hat on, I really needed to have this done. So what I did, I was just searching for people. I was asking around who would be interested in doing this together with me. And I was very lucky to find 4 people that are now on a team working on this. But what they did, they just proposed, like everybody else, in the tooling pool. And I was very happy to see them awarded. Now there's the next stage. So in a sense, that was already a step up to what we want to do in this round. Only this round, it's a little bit more formalized, and the big difference is that we will do these RFPs in a separate pool, and that there will be a maximum per RFP and not for the whole pool, because maybe in a certain round we only have 2 things, and in the next round we have 10 things that we urgently need done, and then we don't necessarily want to be limited by the size of that pool. That wouldn't make too much sense. So that's a little bit of history to where we are right now. So if you ask me when did you start thinking about it? Well, in a way already then, but not in the exact structure that we're thinking about it right now. And now the question is, this team that has built and is very well ahead with this tool. They gave a demonstration last week, which was in the town hall, which was very well received and very impressive. So they're doing good work, but at some point their scope is done, but the tool is not done, because this is just an MVP, and we need to build on that and build on that and build on that. So another challenge that I had is, how can I ensure that this team will continue to be funded without making that just a centralized decision from me or Raphael or anybody else? And then we figured that it perfectly fits this same RFP proposal, and it has some extra benefits to make it more transparent to the community. So what I asked the team to do is to think together with me about the next phase of this tool. So what would be the scope of, and let's say that we now have an alpha or an MVP, let's call it an MVP, then what would be version 1.0? So together we will draft that RFP. We will also create a budget for that, and we will make some specifications, what would be needed. And in this case, for this tool, there would be only one team that would be awarded, because it wouldn't make any sense to have 3 teams working on the same tool, right? So this is an example where we only would need one. But still, anybody in the community that thinks they can make a competing offer can make a competing offer to this team. And if it's really a good offer, then we really need to consider that seriously. In all honesty, in this specific case, I think with the heritage of that team and the work they're doing, they will have a huge advantage over anybody else because they have proven what they can do. But still, it's an open process. And the nice thing about this open process that it will be repeatable in next rounds and for other tools that we are creating. So if we are putting forward an RFP, we will always ask it to be published under an open source license so that anybody could continue to build upon it. And we probably also need to have some requirements for documentation so that also it's feasible for another team to take over. But even, I also mentioned that to the contribution tool team. Maybe they don't want to continue doing this forever. Maybe this tool will grow and mature and grow and mature and become ever more valuable. And then maybe after 1 year and a half, they think, well, I'd like to do something else with my life now. So let somebody else take over. Well, then the procedure is already there. We can create a new RFP and another team can take over. Or maybe at some point or in an other tool that we're creating, we're not completely satisfied with the progress that the team had made or the solution they built or something else. And then there will be a really good opportunity for another team to say, well, we looked at this, but I think we can improve on that and we can do it better. So yeah, it builds transparency, it builds openness. Everybody can see what is being done. Everybody has the opportunity to offer a competing proposal. And in the end, I hope and expect that will also make the quality of the tooling that we build higher. So yeah, somehow I'm very happy that all of this seems to fit very well together and offers a path forward. All right, we have a question. Tommy.
Jan, as you're ideating and you've been at it for a while on this pool, you mentioned, and I was a little surprised, but I'm glad you do it, that you exclude anybody in the organization from pitching a project. Yet you do have some very good talent. Have you thought about creating a pool just for people inside so there's no competition, full transparency, and take advantage of some of the genius that resides with the internal staff?
We haven't. I know there are some people in the organization that were actually quite eager to do some things, maybe in their spare time. And I said no. But you know, if from community side, so this is also an interesting topic for the focus group and for the focus group with the wider community. If you would like to see such a pool, then of course, I'm not against it in principle. I'm against it to protect the treasury. I don't want, so the last thing I want is a deep funding treasury to be sucked dry by all kinds of things that we're going to do anyway, right? So I want to be protective of that, and that's not going to happen. But, you know, we want to be clear about these things. But maybe in our effort to be sensitive to these things, we're maybe sometimes a little bit too strict. So if we can have the right conditions for this, yeah, maybe it would be interesting. Actually, one benefit I would see about it is that it would pull at least some people from the internal organization also more into the deep funding process, because to be honest, right now these are a little bit of separate worlds. So that could be an added benefit that I didn't give any thought before you just asked me.
Well, thank you. And I don't have to be like Chris and put it in the Discord channel a week late. So. But think about it. If you put the right guardrails on it and you do protect the treasury, there is, and I know there's always that question with IP, intellectual property, when you work for a company versus something like this. But if it's an open source, I have to believe that you have at least one person with a totally wow concept that is just looking for a little kickstart on their own time, and it's probably more than one person. I'd highly, since it was my idea, I'd highly
Yeah, I expected you to recommend that, but yeah, thank you for the suggestion. I appreciate it, and I would like to hear some feedback from the rest of the community, if and not just the people here tonight, but also more general. My first idea is that we shouldn't do it this round, probably because there's already so many new stuff going on. But actually, what I will do, maybe I should wait a little bit what the feedback of the wider community would be on this idea. But if it's generally liked, then yeah, I would be happy to ask around internally. I know there are some people working on stuff that they are passionate about that might also be interesting. So yeah, maybe this could just give them an extra push to go the extra mile, especially when it's weekends and evenings, which, to be honest, most of them are already working for SingularityNet. But yeah, I like the idea. I like the idea. So I think I will ask around. See, I know at least one initiative, one bunch of people that would love this because they asked. But I'm also thinking about a few others right now. So yeah, sure. Yeah, good idea. Thank you. Any other questions? Chris, I see you typing, but I don't have time to read it right now. I'll do that later.
Okay. Yeah, I was just saying I kind of agree with Tommy's idea. I think another way to look at it as well, if you're enabling the quality staff, the builders that you have already within Singularity's ecosystem, to allow them to put forward ideas for funding openly like everyone else, it offers an incentive for them to stay within Singularity rather than considering proposals from external companies. So it increases the value that they feel of being a part of what you're doing, what everyone in the Singularity community is doing. And of course, if they're open, if they're publishing it openly, like any other proposal, then it has equal chance from the community's voting or whether it's going to get funded or not. And maybe to alleviate the risks that you shared, Jan, about funding being sucked back, you could potentially look at setting a cap, maybe one proposal every quarter, for example, from the team. Just as an idea, just to try and inhibit that kind of risk.
Yeah, well, we have gaps, right? We have a maximum amount per pool for all other pools except for the RFP pool. Then that works a little bit differently, but so we could have like 10% of the total being applied to such thing. So one benefit I also see is that we also try to nurture the awarded teams and bring them together. For instance, in peer reviews, doing those kind of things together, but also in team meetings. To be very honest, the last half year that hasn't been our main focus, but we are picking that up and pushing that again. And also in that context, it would be very nice to have some internal Singularity Net people there talking about their experiences and their knowledge. And then maybe also giving that back, their experience with deep funding, giving it back into the organization. So you're making me quite enthusiastic about this.
We can actually observe some really interesting stuff in Catalyst right now. In Fontaine, now after all 3 years, the Catalyst team put a proposal forward, which literally asked the community to run Project Catalyst over the next funding years. Was never the case so far that, let's say, the administrative team comes in with a proposal and they're very strong opposite sides. One say, what the fuck? Fuck off, IoT, why are we even doing this? You just grab funds from the treasury directly because you designed for sure the challenges beforehand, right? Who sets the challenge in which you later submit your proposal? This creates already inequality by default, but because it's most likely not the community which will define the pool in which, let's say, in this regard, Singularity Net Foundation would submit the proposals, right? Especially not in the start. Maybe in a later state, but not in the beginning. There's another side who says, hey, this is insanely good because the first time you really have insights on, okay, what do they actually do? What are their goals? It's not like a blog post, right? Like our mission and vision for XYZ is blah, blah, blah. No, it's a proposal now. And now you can hold them accountable because the community in the best regard reviews the proposal, right? So you would have, for example, also here, you would have the milestone reviewers, and the milestone reviewers would now review the execution of the implemented proposal by Singularity Net Foundation in this regard. And this is an insanely interesting thing, what you give to the community now.
Yeah. So the idea for us always has been that at some point we wouldn't be the main ones building on the platform, etc. It would be a kind of Linux thing where our community would build on it. Only at this stage, I think we need to put the architecture there and the lines that will help other people to build. But thinking about this, wouldn't be bad if we would have started this process 2 years ago. Maybe we would be further than where we are today. Yeah.
Exactly. That's your massive advantage, actually, right? Because they have to catch up after 3 years now. While you are still on the very beginning, you can say, okay. And you have still this experiment, the possibility to experiment, right?
Yeah. So yeah. Thanks for that insight. And I see both sides. I understand it. I would also think the second one where, actually you have more transparency in what they're doing and you can control what they're doing and you can approve whether as a community, you want them to spend this amount of funding. And so that accountability, I think is a great thing. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I know there's something going on there. So, but yeah, interesting developments also here. I'm very excited about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ubio.
Yeah, Bo. I think just looking at it from the other side, I think a lot of people have been like, this is probably just like a virtue signaling kind of thing, like. The community, I'm just trying to weigh like people's response to the fact that the Catalyst team has been pulling up their own proposal. A lot of people are asking, is it just a virtue signaling stuff? Are we just doing it? Anyways, you're gonna get the funding anyways. Like, so I've got a lot of people saying that like, anyways, you're gonna get the funding. Who's gonna vote you down? Like, who's gonna have much more weightage and all that? You control, like, people already have faith in you. So what's the probability? The probability that whatever you propose is not going to get out there is actually quite lower. So I do understand the issue with accountability and all that. But again, I think the issue with assuring the community would be the next point. Like, how do we assure the community that there is actually significance in these, and we are not just trying to do it just to look good and just to make it look like one of the nice things to do, but because in reality we do have the power to stop the Catalyst team, or in this case, if it is the SNET team, from actually executing what they want to execute. There is this bias or this notion that naturally comes when we see people internally coming forward. There is this restraint, there is this somewhat opinion somewhere back there that somehow these guys already get it. This is just something that is just, for example, just like what we've been discussing with CIP 1694 with respect to IOG, where we're just like, you guys have already agreed on everything and you're just coming up for us to just come and assent to what you've already agreed behind. So it's always a very tough call for when we see the internal team coming out for sake of transparency. Now, this is not a point for or against, but this is a point saying that when we do such, we should also consider the point that we have to assure the community that this actually does matter.
Yeah, so if I summarize what you're, if I understand you correctly, you're saying that the internal team has a lot of credits built in, and they might be awarded just because of they are so visible and everybody knows them and trusts them. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, one. But even if that is not the case, it's our responsibility to let the community understand that this process really does matter, and this is not just another virtue signaling stuff.
Oh yeah.
So that's the main responsibility. The responsibility is ours to ensure that the community does really know that they have a part to play, and this is not just one of those processes that we are just doing just to make it feel good. So that is where I'm really relying on.
No, in this case, this is definitely not the case. We don't do this just to make anybody feel good. It's because we need it. We need it. And we will be building hard on the platform if everything goes as I hope it will go today, and as it looks it will go today. And there's some things we can do, and there's some things the community can do and can help us with. And we would love the help of the community, the support of the community there. Yeah.
Yeah. Just briefly, I mean, if you define all the RFPs yourself, it puts a bit of a narrow path, and the community is just here to execute, not necessarily to guide, not necessarily to have to help on the vision. But basically, you set the RFP, you control the boundaries, and the community is just seen as who's going to execute for the least money, best effort, whatever is the measure.
True. What's your point?
You decentralize the execution of the implementation. You do not necessarily decentralize what the platform is going to be. What the platform is going to be. Still very, very centralized.
I'm just kidding, Eric. I understand your point very well. So that's why, first of all, we have two tooling pools. We have one pool where the community can come up with all kinds of ideas and get awarded for that. And we have another pool where the SingularityNet Foundation internal staff can come up with a number of pools. And both are for the community to either vote up or vote down. So in a sense, that is equal. If you look at the way we are building the platform and our technology today, there's no community involvement at all. We decide what the platform should be. We decide what functionalities we want to have, and we are building it. So in a sense, this is a first step forward. But I hope what would be the greatest thing if maybe a year from now, something like that, when we have a proper architecture that is known that these kind of RFPs or something would also be issued by the community. just like Bitcoin does that, and other projects do that, where somebody creates an RFP and it's being discussed and then voted for. So all these possibilities, I think, are open, but it will take time to get there. But for now, we take the lead in the platform strategy, and thinking about it, and then doing large part ourselves, but already trying to get community support there in the execution part. You're right there. But there's always, and there will be also in the next round, Pool E for community initiated tooling. And maybe at some point these will be combined, where the community will first define all the proposals and then search for a team to propose it. It's possible.
To the whole thing of, for example, Singularity and coming in with proposals, I mean, the main problem is it would be a rhetoric pool. It would be a rhetoric proposals. The question is already answered. Let's assume right now, for example, you put the pool, anybody is able to run deep funding. It's all operations. The only possible entity to do is Singularity Net Foundation itself. So the challenge itself, the draft, doesn't make sense, because it's like, Putin asked for voting. Like, yeah, great. If you just have one candidate to vote on, the whole process is illegitimate. And I think just ask a first question beforehand. For example, a pool like this would only make sense if you are sure that you have competitors in place. That it's not sure that the, let's say, Singularity Net Foundation as proposer would by default win, because they have all the insights nobody else could actually take over. In this regard, first to say, for example, a pool, how do we decentralize operations? And then let community come and say, okay, hey, small proposal, something like whatnot, but come and help to figure out together, how do we decentralize it? Because even in this regard from the pool, for example, if you say, okay, we set up a pool where people can come to, and Singularity Net Foundation can come and submit proposals as well, then why is this happening? It's only because that's the vision of Singularity Net Foundation, how to decentralize the thing. So it's already implemented, and the community's only engagement is by legitimizing an already made decision beforehand. Because these are just outcomes from your vision, from your mission. And like what Eric mentioned, just having the community participating in the execution doesn't forcefully lead to decentralization. They have to be included in the mission and vision building of the project itself. So how do you build this capacity and move it up? And then when you have first seeds of this, then pools where Singularity Net Foundation can come in make sense, because now you have a very strong community, can say, okay, cool, now we can compete with them. Because the long-term goal is still that the community would fully run.
Yeah, so I don't have the illusion that creating these RFPs is that with creating these RFPs, decentralization is done. That's certainly not the case. The case is that we are passionate about the platform, that we see a lot of opportunity there, and that we want to act really fast here. And that's why we would love to have that kind of community contributions. And then going forward from that, there are lots of ways we're working on decentralization. We have the ambassador program. We are continuing with Syncom DAO, the whole decentralization effort. We are working with a focus group to discuss these kind of things. So this is just a building thing. And indeed, I use the word decentralization because we would love to have community participation in building it, but it's not decentralization of governance. That's a different thing, which we're also working on multiple different parallel streams. Peter?
Yeah, just a quick note. And as a disclaimer, I have only skimmed through the ID skill on that IOG one. But the big difference here would be that it's not Singularity Net Foundation applying for the funding. It's requesting others to apply for the funding.
Yeah, it's a whole different thing. I thought that was clear, but
I just wanted to reiterate on that.
It would be a little bit different already if we follow Tommy's idea. Then it would be, but even then it would be different. So, but yeah, that's 1,000 flowers bloom or something. Raphael.
Indeed, Tom's idea would be a new pool, different from what we are envisioned for pool S. I would like to build a bit on what Eric mentioned. We have several levels of participation of community and decentralization, right? It's not only one option of decentralization. And for instance, when we are working towards proposals in Sway, communities is still able to make their input and comments into the proposal itself. So this is something that also goes toward, it's not only the execution part, right? The execution part is going to be delivered as well. But the community still has the ability and the possibility to go there and make suggestions, critiques, or compliments about the project. So it's a level as well of contribution in the sense of a strategic view for the vision or mission. This, and also the fact that, as Jan mentioned, community can vote yes or no. If they don't like this, give a low rate, and it's not going to be available to be executed. So these are some sort and in different levels of decentralization as well. It's not something that we say, yes, it's going to happen and it's going to happen. So this is important to, well, at least from my perspective, it's important to be said as well, that we are going in this direction. Another point is, especially from the perspective of the vision of deep funding, we have two levels, two categories of decentralization. One is the strategic and tactical procedures and ideation and everything that involves the path that deep funding is going to take. The other can be, yes, the execution of tasks. And the way they are being developed can totally vary according with the variety of backgrounds that the community can apply, can execute. So in this sense, we are also working towards decentralization, and in another situation where you have bottom-up execution. So now that I am part of the community, I am executing something, even though it's a task, I am part of this process and I am understanding the needs and the necessities that we have to have. Therefore, I can have better ideation in the governance process, not the deep funding round X, for instance. So I still see the task execution like answering to an RFP request. This is still something that we can consider decentralization. Different level, I agree, but this is still decentralization.
So sorry, I thought you were already making the bridge to your topic of decentralization tasks.
I can. I just wanted to give you still time to talk more on your topic.
No, so I saw a discussion in the chat. I was going to answer that, but you know, it's in a way the easiest thing would be to say to whatever we're doing, this is not real decentralization, because there's always a way we can make it more decentralized. But I hope that you would also appreciate that the steps we are taking here, and not just with this pool is about building, but also all the other things that we're doing now with the focus group, with the governance, with this meeting, with the governance rounds that we have done in the past, with our up and coming Syncom DAO. I think anybody who watches closely, and that will even be better visible a healthy year from now, will be very confident that we're very sincere about our determination to decentralize. But I've also always said it's a path, it's relatively easy to sketch the end goal and how it will function there and how it will be perfect. But now we're here and we have to go there. And the hardest part is to navigate in a safe way that we actually get there, and not having burned through all our funds there, having a very extreme community in one way or another, or no community anymore, or whatever. So we're taking it step by step, but the goal is full decentralization, whatever that term exactly means, because that's also one thing we need to find out.
And now you bridge it to my topic, talking about that, yes. But yeah, I like it, for instance, when Yubio brought the situation about the virtual signaling. As it's easy to say decentralization, democratization, and other mass used words in order to make things prettier. But when we see Jan, for instance, just mentioned about the focus group, right? The focus group was a kind of centralized decision with participation of others as well, I can assure you guys. However, when he says that we don't know how the focus group is going to behave, if they are going to use these weekly calls, if they are going to work between them and then participate, intermediate with us. So this is part of the process of decentralization that we are aiming to have. So it's very important to have to get this point of view as well, where we are indeed going towards the decentralization. It's not only this framework that we don't basically have. We are giving the opportunity and giving the high level potential, but the community itself will through those members will decide. I was this afternoon also working in another process, which was the milestone review, which are going to have some roles as well within eligibility and milestone. And I went through the same process. Okay, I don't want to say how the coordinators, which are going to be a role, will work and operate. They have the ability to ideate and bring their knowledge, their diversity into these processes and make it even more decentralized. We don't want to use well, the one that magnifies, right? Yeah, we don't want to have this over the processes all the time. So we are can definitely say that we are going to this fully decentralized process that Jan mentioned. And it's exactly about the vision that we have on deep funding, especially when involving the community, is to become decentralized. That's our goal. We don't want to be always here taking decisions by ourselves. If we have a lot of great minds, Tommy mentioned it about the internal great minds. At that moment, I said, yeah, but in the community, we also have a lot of great minds that we want to have the participation. And it's an interesting perspective, because since he is, it's not internal person, he has this incentive, and he wants to see more people from the deep funding, the Singularity Net Foundation coming outside and say, hey, we are delivering this as well and participating and talking to you. We want more and more to have people from outside the formal role, the Singularity Net, coming inside as well. I was talking to Jan, and we're talking about soon, I hope, if not soon, but we still having. We are not going to have these borders anymore. It's going to be very potentially initially fuzz these borders between in and out, especially with the DAO Syncom DAO process. But the deep funding is as well a experimentation field for this type of situations. It's important to remember the objective of deep funding, right? It's an initiative to seed the decentralized AI platform that SingularityNet has developed. So this is our main goal. So we can't also have the deep funding going too much in a flexible way. That being said, the platform is our goal. That's why we have, for instance, the tooling pool, which gives the opportunity to increment the platform, marketing to also increment the platform and the awareness around, and so on. But even being so embedded with the idea of decentralization, we can't jump stages, we can't jump phases. We are, even though we have a very good perspective and already expertise in decentralization, we still have a major part centralized. And we can't just say, hey, let's jump from centralized to decentralized, from the night to the next day, right? Because this would be it wouldn't result in a good way. So considering that we have this structure of strategic and tactical processes and documentation and ideation within deep funding, and that we have another part or category, which is the execution of operations, of operational tasks separated, we are going from governance calls, which give a decentralizing process in this ideation and strategic part, but we also want to have this decentralization approach with the tasks and the operations itself. Can't do this from night to morning, right? So we are going step by step, baby steps. We are going to pass through a stage, through a phase where we are going to rely on what we have now with a partner, a collaboration with Swarm, where we can learn from them. We can also use the structure that Swarm has in order for us to achieve that full decentralized model that we want to have. This first phase of this vision for us to become fully decentralized, it's already ongoing in the beginning, but it's already ongoing with some experimentation already, using a map of our internal operations as topics or tasks to be delivered by the community. Again, we are not ideally going directly to the community, getting people there to execute these tasks. So we are leveraging a collaborator to do this with us, right? Alongside us. So we have a process that we can even discuss as well in another opportunity. But the main idea here is to let you know and to have also your comment back and feedback about a situation where the community is going to more and more be part of the deep funding, also through task execution in this sense. Honestly, it's something that we already implemented before with eligibility review. It was basically this. We had eligibility review, which were delivered by community members. They did an amazing work there with their processes. I read the feedback of the eligibility members as well from that situation. And we are going to have similar thing, but now with a structure that we can scale towards other types of tasks as well. Okay. I hope you guys enjoy the opportunity to be also part of these operations or these task deliveries, not only with the governance and ideation part, because it's important for us as well in order to grow. The platform, our goal is to increase and increment the number of services onboarded. So if you have any consideration about it, I'm putting here in the chat the link to a blog post that is explaining the situation as well, this two-phased approach. First approach with a collaboration with different partners, and the second phase having this. We can't say that we are going to be one day fully decentralized, right? It's a process that's going to be ongoing and ongoing and ongoing because of the concept itself. So, but that's the vision to get there. So feel free to make your feedback and read the blog post as well with more information.
All right. Any more questions or ideas or other topics you would like to bring to the table? Then if not, I would say let's be respectful of everybody's time, and let's call it a wrap. I think it was a great last meeting. Thanks for your input, your enthusiasm. And even though it might be a little bit different next time, I'm looking forward to seeing you all here again, including all of you that couldn't be here tonight. Thank you.